today we are going to talk about school assistance and learning disabilities. So to start off, I want to play a little game, and if you are a special ed major, don't ruin this for everybody else, because I know Dr. Keith plays this. So we're going to do a round robin story. Does everybody know what that is? Yes, no? Okay, so I'm going to say a sentence, and you're going to add to it, and we're going to make a coherent story. But I don't want you to use the letter A in any word that you choose in your sentence. So I'll start. The girls went out. And then
they went to movies.
to movies, good.
They seen oh my gosh. They seen Gods of Egypt.
I work right across the movie theater, so.
Then they observed
Nice big word.
unicorns.
Hannah?
Oh, I thought I was gonna get out of this with the
No,
recorder.
sorry. I don't exclude anyone.
They hopped on, then rode the unicorns.
Heidi?
They went into the forest.
Then the rain, then
I like you guys' facial expressions. I really wish you could see them. Sorry, keep going.
the sun rose.
Sun rose, all right. Sounds magical.
Next, they got food.
Got food, I like that. All right, Hannah in the back.
They drove to the Kentucky border.
With the unicorns, the girls munched on veggies.
This story is now over.
You were prepared for that. All right, fabulous. So when you were doing that story, were you thinking harder and speaking differently than you would normally speak? Yeah? All right, that's because when we normally speak, it's an associative task for us. So we can do it and do other stuff while we're doing it. Like I'm over here waving my hands and talking, and I'm not messing up. But when I give you the rule of you can't use the letter A, all of a sudden it's a cognitive task, and you're speaking slower, and everything's a little bit harder to make your ideas come out. And so this is how it's like for a lot of students with disabilities. So it's no wonder that they get frustrated and they give up really easily in classes, because everything is a lot harder for them. So today we're going to talk about what a learning disability is. We're going to talk about some statistics, and then we're going to talk about 4 ways that we as educators can support a child with a disability. So what is a learning disability? Morrison and Wilcox defines a learning disability as an auditory, neurological, visual, or perceptual disability that hinders a child's learning. So it can be anything, but for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to talk about specific learning disabilities. If you see it on an IEP, it's an SLD. And we're going to talk about dyslexia, which involves words and letters, dyscalculia, which involves numbers, and then dysgraphia, which is related to handwriting. Alright, so some statistics. 1 in 5 students have a language-based disability. So all of us, whether you want to be a private school teacher or a special educator or a public school teacher or teaching in urban areas, you are going to have a student with a learning disability that's language-based. So 20% of the elementary school population struggles with reading. Not all of that 20% is learning disabilities, but oftentimes that is the case. And my next one is 30% of children with dyslexia have some form of ADHD. And so I brought this up because a lot of times we'll see a kid and we'll be like, oh, he's an ADHD kid, he's not gonna read it. And so we don't think that maybe there's an underlying cause of their problems with comprehension or reading that could be dyslexia. And then my fun fact is the amount of boys and girls diagnosed with a learning disability is roughly the same. It's also the same across ethnicities and different cultures. So no one's excluded from potentially having a learning disability. So what are some things we can do? And we're going to go more into detail about each, and I'm going to get on my soapbox about the IEP. But we can always follow the IEP, checklist, pre-teaching, autocorrection software or dictation software, and then the CCC spelling method. Has anybody heard of the CCC spelling method? No? Good, you're going to learn something. All right, so the IEP, this is my little soapbox. An IEP is a legal document. You have to follow everything that is put into it, whether you agree with it or not. You might think that Johnny doesn't really need this. If it's in the IEP, he needs it. You're going to have to give it to him, whether you agree or not. And that is my soapbox. All right. So, checklists. Checklists have a variety of uses. You can use them in classwork, homework. They can be behavioral, they can be social skills. You can really use them for pretty much anything. And you want to teach the students self-monitoring so that way they can fill it out on their own, so that way you're not always checking up on them. So I have my fancy little sample here. So this has what he has to do. So he has to lay out his homework, do it on his own, show mom, and then put it in his backpack. Then right next to it, it lists what he earns. So for each task he can see, I'm going to get this if I do this. And then he checks off which ones he did. So he didn't show mom on Monday, but he did everything on Tuesday. Excuse me. And then on the bottom, this includes a behavioral contract. You don't always have to see that on a checklist, but the student and the parent or the teacher will write that together, so that way the student has some sort of input into what they're going to be doing. Do we feel good? Feeling good? I'm talking fast, I'm sorry. All right, so pre-teaching. So pre-teaching is a fabulous tool in inclusion classrooms because the rest of the class is going at one speed, and sometimes a student might take longer to get a concept because of their learning disability. So what pre-teaching does is it introduces keywords, concepts, and ideas before the actual lesson. So you're not teaching the entire lesson, but you're just introducing these things so that way they can develop an understanding. And then during the lesson, they can piece all of the terms, concepts, and ideas together to fully understand. Does that make sense? Yes? All right. You guys are really quiet. I'm so nervous. All right. So autocorrection software, this is also a dictation software. It allows students with specific learning disabilities to focus more on ideas rather than worrying about spelling and grammar. Obviously, you don't want to use this all the time because spelling and grammar is important. That's why we're in this block. It increases clarity, understanding, and accuracy in the students' writing because they're able to let their ideas flow without the nervousness of, oh, am I spelling this right? Or, oh, am I seeing my letters correctly? It also reduces anxiety involved with time constraints because oftentimes it takes them longer to get something done. So that helps reduce anxiety. And our last one that we have is the CCC spelling method. And so this is a way to teach spelling that encourages students to fix their mistakes. So what you do is you have the word written correctly, probably by the teacher, and then the student copies it looking at the word, and then the student covers it and writes the word from memory, and then they compare how they spelled it versus how it's supposed to be spelled. This works really well because it immediately corrects any mistakes that they have to help prevent future mistakes. All right, do we feel good? I know I'm going fast, I'm sorry. All right, so now we're gonna take a Socrative quiz. Oh, I lost my mouse. it, or do I need to put that up? Here we go. I'll give you guys one more minute. All right, so in conclusion, today we discussed what a learning disability is. We talked about some statistics involving specific learning disabilities, and we talked about different ways that we can support students.